Well, last night, I guess early this morning, signed a 2-year budget, a historic budget, a budget that invests in Ohio, a budget that invests in the people of Ohio, and a budget that invests particularly in our children. It is a bipartisan budget. This budget passed in the Senate 32-1, passed in the House 84-13. Those votes are very significant. That fact alone, I believe, is very significant. Yes, we have differences. Yes, we have debates. Yes, we have disagreements, and we'll have them in the future. But at what time in American history and the history of this state have we not had that? But this budget speaks to what pulls us together. And it reminds us that we have so much more in common than the things that pull us apart. It is a strong budget. It is a budget that is focused on our future. Budgets always reflect priorities. And I learned a long time ago that budgets, that policy is driven so often through budgets, that what you invest in is what you value. This budget reflects what we value. It is a budget that builds on the budget that we had 2 years ago. It is a budget that builds upon that and takes it to a much higher level, and I'll talk about some of those areas in a moment. In my first, and so far only, State of the State, we will have another one, right, Scott? We'll sometime, I think, and yeah, so am I. This is your 19th budget, right?
Yes, sir.
It's time, one of the things that I said in that State of the State, it's time for us to invest in our children, in our workers, in our roads, our bridges, our infrastructure, and in Lake Erie, and in our state parks, and our other natural wonders. End of quote. This budget does that. As I said at that State of the State, it's time for us to invest in ourselves, our people, and to invest in our future. And this budget does that. And to think that we have done this while coming out of the worst health crisis in 100 years, that we've come out with this very, very strong budget. This has been a crisis that has upended our state, upended our country, upended our economic and our social way of life. We made the tough choices very early on. We cut spending. We froze hiring. We did what we had to do, as Ohioans always have. We are a resilient, we are a tough, we are a strong people. The fact that we're able to have this budget and be able to invest in the future is a result of what we did early on. I want to thank the legislature for their work on this budget. We share a common vision for the future of this state. I'm very, very proud of this budget. I'd like to express my specific thanks, of course, to Speaker Cupp, President Huffman, as well as all the members of the conference committee. And I also want to thank their staffs who have worked so very, very hard. They're not seen, but we see the results of their work. We are joined by several members of the committee today, including Chairman Oestlager, Ranking Member Sykes, Representative Phil Plummer, and Senator Teresa Gavarone. I also want to thank Chairman Dolan, Ranking Member Crawley, who aren't with us this morning. We thank all of them for their great work. I want to talk about several of the areas that I think are very, very important. Lieutenant Governor Houston will talk about others. Let me start with children. This is a children's budget. This budget invests, for example, $13 million to pay for lead control and abatement work in homes throughout Ohio. It focuses on not only lead in homes, it focuses on lead in lead pipes, and that is an unprecedented amount of investment that we are making. Second, $20 million will go towards expanding the Ohio START program, which is a program that I launched when I was the Attorney General. It provides specialized services to families, particularly children who have suffered victimization due to their parents' drug use. This is a program that has worked, and we are expanding it. The budget also invests $24 million to bring Wendy's Wonderful Kids to every county in Ohio. This, again, is a program that works. It helps children who have been in foster care the longest find permanent, loving homes. Since Ohio implemented this program, more than 1,000 children have been adopted through Wendy's Wonderful Kids. In essence, what it does is it guarantees that in every single county of this state, there will be one person who will focus their exclusive time on finding homes for foster care children. That's significant. This budget invests $20 million in a new initiative to implement evidence-based programs that keep kids out of foster care. One thing we hear often from former foster youth is that a helping hand could have prevented them from coming into care. These funds will help establish programs to provide the helping hand, whether in the form of mental health or parenting support services or just basic connections to basic necessities. These investments and others align with the recommendations of our Children's Services Transformation Advisory Council, which I formed in 2019 to help reform the foster care system. This is a work in progress. We are not there yet, but we are making significant investment and changing things. Collectively, budget investments to fulfill the recommendations of this advisory council now total more than $37 million in new spending over the biennium. Again, I thank the legislature for giving us those funds. This budget also expands on the historic level of funding for the state child protection allocation to Ohio's 88 county public children's services agencies. When we took office in our first budget, we doubled the amount of money. This budget builds on that and adds additional money, and I thank the legislature for that as well. This budget will also aid in our overhaul of our training, technical assistance, and professional development programs for children's services, for the workers, the people who are out there every single day. This overhaul will help refocus professional development on the use of best practices and uniformly across all 88 county public children's service agencies. Our goal is to change the system, and we're making progress. As Ohio recovers from the pandemic, it's also critical to continue to support Ohio's school-age children, K through 12. Investing in children allows us to strengthen our future workforce and our economy, and is investing in our future and is investing in the most precious thing that we have, and that is our kids. This budget will invest over $20 billion over the biennium in state funding for K through 12, $20.6 billion. This is record investment. This record state investment is a $1.7 billion or 8.7% increase over the prior biennium and will support the education of Ohio's 1.7 million school children. This budget also provides Ohio families access to more educational choice options than ever before. Again, I'm grateful for the inclusion of student wellness and success money inside of the legislature's school funding formula. When I first proposed in the last budget that Ohio set aside funding for wellness, our goal was to ensure that schools were focused on providing these important services to our children. Physical and mental health services, after-school programming, family supports, all are just examples of ways this funding has been used and can be used. All of these are vital to the success of our children. Under the legislature's new funding plan, these services are built into the formula. Schools will be notified of how much of their funding is dedicated to student wellness, how they're doing on that. And we will be able to keep track of how that money is specifically being spent. Let me make it very, very clear. Law also will give Ohioans very clear reporting on this. I look forward to seeing the innovative things that schools choose to do with this funding. I'm thankful that our partners in the legislature and schools recognize how important these services are to our kids and to our families. This money will have to be spent for those items. Next, to attract and support high-quality charter schools. We have some high-quality charter schools. We want to replicate them. We want to see them expand. The top. To attract and support high-quality charter schools to Ohio, this budget will increase the Quality Community School Support Fund to $108 million, which is $54 million per year. To access these funds, charter schools must meet rigorous academic, good standing, and financial criteria. Next, to prepare children for kindergarten and encourage good reading habits, the budget supports the Governor's Imagination Library. I want to thank the legislature for their continued support of this initiative that reaches children 0 to 5, puts a book in every home. I want to thank my wife, Fran, for her leadership in regard to this. When we started, I think we were at around 13% of the kids in the state of Ohio who were receiving these books, 0 to 5, that age group. About 13%. We're today at about 40%. And so we're making progress, and I want to thank the members of the legislature who are not only putting money into this program, but who are working to get more people signed up back, more kids signed up back in their districts. The budget also provides key support for our college students, providing $53 million for Choose Ohio First for at least 2,000 new scholarships to help students become skilled in high-demand areas, and it prioritizes awards for underrepresented populations who are enrolled in the study of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The budget also provides $219 million for the Ohio College Opportunity Grant to provide increased support for need-based aid at Ohio's four-year colleges and universities. For our public schools, we are taking this in the second year. That means $2,500 for these students. And in private schools, if they're going to a private school, it's $4,000. So we're proud and very happy to make those investments in our young people. Let me turn to our communities. Our communities are the best place to work, play, raise a family. Our cities, our counties, small towns, townships, our villages have been extraordinarily challenged this past year. In addition to the broadband community infrastructure projects that Lieutenant Governor Houston will discuss, the budget includes several public safety investments for communities throughout Ohio. It's important. It is important that we invest in law enforcement in the state of Ohio, because it's only when we have peaceful neighborhoods, safe communities, that this state can grow and this state can flourish. We continue to hear from law enforcement officers that it's a small number of violent criminals in each community who are responsible for for the vast, vast majority of most of the violent crime. This budget recognizes that. $8 million from the operating budget will go towards a new violent crime reduction grant program to help local law enforcement agencies solve and prevent violent crimes through proven crime reduction strategies such as gunshot detection technology and the expansion of safe streets task forces. Next, to combat violence in the streets, we need to ensure that our law enforcement agencies are fully staffed with diverse officers and that we are recruiting the best that we have. $1 million will go to support the State Office of Law Enforcement Recruitment to help local law enforcement agencies recruit, hire, and train new peace officers. An additional $13 million will go towards expanding the Ohio Narcotics Intelligence Center, which assists local law enforcement agencies in unraveling complex drug trafficking investigations through the use of the analysis of cell phones and other electronics. The center was started 2 years ago in the previous budget. It's done amazing work. The center will open new offices with this budget in Cincinnati and Toledo, and will expand its mission to investigate firearms trafficking connected drug crimes. Next, $5.4 million will go towards our school safety center's work to keep kids safe at school. Further, the budget also includes $10 million in grants for local law enforcement agencies to purchase body cameras to help encourage transparency and accountability. Finally, let me turn to natural resources and the environment. Ohio is a place of abundant natural beauty and plentiful resources. It is an amazing and beautiful state. As good stewards of the land, we must preserve and expand our state parks, protect wildlife, restore our wetlands, ensure safe, clean water for the enjoyment and well-being of generations to come. This budget, again, thanks to the legislature, provides $132 million in new funding for H2 Ohio, which will continue creating and restoring wetlands, protect public health by improving water infrastructure, and reduce lead exposure, and engaging agriculture producers in nutrient, water, and erosion management, the best practices, to reduce runoff and prevent algae bloom in our Great Lake Erie. $28 million will go towards the purchase of additional land, the final segment, additional land for the beautiful Appalachian Hills Wildlife Area. This is a jewel in the state of Ohio, and the last two budgets we have provided the money to protect it forever and to make sure it is available to anyone who wants to hike, fish, or hunt, or just go out and camp and enjoy the outdoors. We were thrilled to be able to protect a total of nearly 60,000 acres of incredible property for future generations. In summary, before I introduce the Lieutenant Governor, this is a budget that invests in Ohioans. It reflects our hopes and it reflects our dreams. Our goal, a goal that we all share, is that every child who grows up in the state of Ohio, no matter who their parents are, no matter where they grow up, will have opportunity to realize their own version of the American dream. This budget will not ensure that every child can do that, but it is a major, major step forward. And it reaffirms our commitment to that goal, a goal that we all share. Now let me introduce the Lieutenant Governor. I appreciate all the work that he has been doing. John.
Thanks, Governor. It's great to be up here with all of my friends in the General Assembly. We worked, I know you've all worked very hard at this, and we appreciate your hard work. It was a long and winding road, as every budget is, but it's balanced. I think a lot of times the public doesn't know that. When they see all of the spending that's going on at the federal level, they need to know that their state budget is balanced and that we didn't have to dip into the rainy day fund, our savings account, and that their priorities are funded. And it invests in the people and the things that they need, as the governor well documented, in our kids, in education, in job training, public safety, and infrastructure, and also because of sound management over the course of time, tax relief that makes Ohio more attractive to people, investments, and job creation. And I do also want to acknowledge and appreciate the fact that it was passed on a bipartisan basis, which means that everybody got something, they got to be heard. Let me start with broadband. We made this a key part of our administration early on. We knew from the time we spent traveling the state and talking to people, particularly in rural Ohio and some of our poor neighborhoods in our urban areas, that people didn't have access to broadband. And it is an essential element of living in modern society. You can't participate in the modern economy, education, or healthcare system without it. The pandemic highlighted that disparity. And I am very excited about the fact that the General Assembly ultimately put $250 million into this and will give us the flexibility to solve problems in rural Ohio, in urban Ohio, and to invest in new innovations that can solve problems in ways that we never imagined just a few years ago. We will focus it on access and affordability. Can I buy it? Can I afford it? Those are the principles that will be involved in expanding this to people who don't have it. Let's focus on workforce, people. Governor always talks about investing in people. Our workforce is critical to that. Right now we're creating jobs faster than we can find people to fill them. And we also know that there are many people who would like to earn more. Upskilling them is an essential part of giving them more opportunity for prosperity. One of the reasons that we can't sometimes fill the jobs that are available is because of a skills mismatch. Technology during the pandemic, it has been, but during the pandemic was enhanced in terms of its role in the workplace. There are historic investments in job training. $58 million for tech cred. This more than doubles the funding that we put into this. When we started out, we had a goal of 10,000 people a year that we would upskill and reskill. Now we hope to grow that to 20,000 a year. Why is that important? Is because with this, with the tech credit investment and its partner program in IMAP, everyone who's prepared to make the effort in the state of Ohio can get access to job training that will allow them to earn an industry credential that will qualify them for high-paying jobs in the state. Everyone. And when we do that, there's over 100,000 jobs that pay more than $50,000 a year right now on ohiomeansjobs.com. When we do that, we prepare. We give opportunity to everyone in the state to earn a skill that will lead to a good-paying job. That's an opportunity budget. That's an opportunity for everyone. It's good for our employers because they have the talent they need. It's great for the people of the state because they will have the skills, access to the skills they need to compete, win, have more job security, and higher pay. I also am grateful to the General Assembly for including the money we ask for K through 12 schools to help more high school students earn industry-recognized credentials so they are career-ready upon graduation from high school. So that when they leave as an 18-year-old, that they will have had an opportunity to earn an industry-recognized credential that will prepare them for a career right out of high school. In many cases, college credits come with them, but we hope to hit a record with this and having over 70,000 high school students leave each year with an industry-recognized credential that will prepare them for that career. This is all part of improving the economy and the quality of life of everyone in our state. Additionally, money in there, we appreciate the money included for brownfields. It was part of our economic recovery package that we talked about. $150 million for demolitions, $350 million for the redevelopment of brownfields. I know we have a former mayor here, part of our administration, Lydia Mahalik, former mayor of Findlay, but I talk to mayors all the time. I talk to Mayor Franklin in Warren, Ohio, Mayor Mason in Zanesville. You talk to small communities around the state, and they say, look, we have a dilapidated building. We have an environmental problem. We have a piece of property that we just don't have the money to reclaim, to demolish the building that's on it, to clean it up, and to make that site a job-ready site in our community. Ask any mayor of some, particularly our small and mid-sized cities, and they'll tell you they have properties they cannot clean up, and that if we could help them do that, it could be a cornerstone of revitalization in their communities. This budget does that. It invests and allows those things to happen. Let me also focus on, if I could here for a second, find one of my notes, which of course I always lose when I'm doing this. I want to make some comments on what this does for our economy. I got a little bit ahead of it with those two things, with those two items. But I mentioned that it provides tax relief for all. I will mention that it creates tax relief for all. But let me just say this. We have an historic opportunity in Ohio right now. A couple things have happened in the world. The pandemic occurred, which meant that people began to more and more work from their homes, that they decided that living on the coasts in many cases was too expensive either to live or to do business. We have global instability in Asia, politically and otherwise, that creates an opportunity for many reshoring opportunities in our country right now. So we have people who are looking to relocate, businesses that are looking to make new investments in states that are more business friendly, and we have a global supply chain problem, and they're looking to America as a place where they can reshore. And there were several things included in this budget that are important to that. And let me start with tax relief. Every single person is going to get tax relief in the state of Ohio in this budget. But there are also some additional provisions in the budget that will allow businesses and venture funds that invest in their people to deduct the wages that they pay their people from their capital gains liability, which makes Ohio more attractive to investment, which means that people won't need to leave to look for a better state to invest, that they will be attracted to Ohio. And I believe, fundamentally believe, that Ohio is the go-to state in the Midwest now for business investment. And that's going to mean more jobs and more opportunity for the people of our state. This budget does that through that effort on taxes and through other things like a change in policy so that we can attract some of these mega projects. The mega project legislation will give companies the ability to receive a 30-year, an extension of a job creation tax credit to up to 30 years if they meet the following criteria. The companies will have to pay at least 3 times the federal minimum wage, which is $21.75. They will have to make $1 billion in fixed asset investment and create at least $75 million in employee payroll in the state of Ohio. We are in the game for these projects now. We were not in the past. We have the opportunity with the reshoring that's occurring, and we are going to aggressively fight for these investments and these jobs in the state of Ohio. And through the job training dollars, through the tax changes, through the mega project legislation, through the brownfield redevelopment, we're putting many, many more people and communities in the game in this competition. That's what this budget does. It is an aggressive attempt to make Ohio an economic leader, the go-to state in the Midwest. And then a couple of final points. Governor, I'll be a little redundant on this, but I want to say that I really appreciate that in this budget, instead of defunding the police, we are investing in them. We are investing in the protection of our communities, and the governor outlined this. Recruiting police officers, supporting their body cams, reducing violent crime, focusing on safety in our schools. These things are important. These are things that people talk to us about every day in what they experience in their daily lives. And the General Assembly collectively on a bipartisan basis stepped up and supported those programs. Also, on a final note, the Ed Choice program and the school choice initiatives in the state of Ohio. Been a long time champion of them. I'm grateful that a program like Ed Choice that I created when I was Speaker of the House in 2005 with many of my colleagues who are standing here remains a central part of that opportunity for students to choose an educational pathway that best fits them. No one education system can serve everybody's unique needs. In Ohio, we have a menu of options that are really important to children and families in their daily lives, and I appreciate the General Assembly's continued commitment to that. I have a different, though, I will tell my legislative colleagues, I have a little different take on these budgets now that I'm in the executive branch and not in the legislative branch anymore, as we've had some fun conversations about. But once a budget's done and you're a member of the General Assembly, it's relief. For us, it's time to go to work because we have to implement these things. We have to get the money out to our communities, to people, to develop these projects so that we can improve the quality of life for all of the people of the state of Ohio. This budget provides the framework to do that. And over the course of the next couple of years, I know that we are going to be more competitive economically, that we're going to help people, that they're going to thrive, and that we are going to be the go-to state in the Midwest. And I'm excited about the opportunity this budget provides us to go out and get that work done. Thank you, Governor.
Lieutenant Governor, thank you very much. Senate Pro Tem Jay Hollinger is here to speak on behalf of the Senate Majority Caucus. I want to thank him for his great work and for the caucus's work.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. It's a privilege for me to be here and represent the Ohio Senate. So on behalf of Senate President Matt Huffman, Minority Leader Kenny Yuko, Finance Chairman Matt Dolan, I'm also joined by my colleagues, Vice Chairman Teresa Gavarone and Ranking Minority Member Vernon Sykes. And Governor, it's been said that success has many fathers and failure is an orphan. And as you can see, this budget has many fathers and mothers, but clearly, as Governor, you're the lead architect. It starts with you, and you highlighted just a few. Believe it or not, that's just a few of the investments and priorities that we have made. And it does a lot of things, Governor, but your work starting in the last budget for children and at-risk youth is significant, and thank you for continuing that in this budget. I've said before, I'm kind of the new kid on the block compared to Chairman Olslager. This is only my 14th budget, and so since I'm just new around here, I'll defer to my elder statesmen. But I've often said that the budget process is the process of allocating disappointment. Because there's always people that are unhappy. There's always people who say we should have done this or we should have done that. But the budget process, as you've heard from the governor and the lieutenant governor and others, it's also a list of our priorities. And it is a process also of allocating joy and hopes and dreams. And from my perspective and my 14 budgets that I have worked on, this is second to none. This budget can be labeled a lot of things. It is clearly pro-family. It is definitely pro-child. It's a pro-growth budget, as Lieutenant Governor Husted has mentioned. It's pro-education. It's pro-veteran. In short, it's pro-Ohio. And one of the things that we are proud of, and particularly in the Ohio Senate, is that it also provides the law, in addition to historic investments, the historic investments in children, the historic investments in K through 12 education, the historic investments in those things that are important to Ohioans, it also provides the largest personal income tax in Ohio's history. And so there's $2 billion in tax cuts, and we are building on the legacy and the work of tax reform that has been going on here in Ohio now for a couple of decades. $1.6 billion in personal income tax cuts. Lieutenant Governor Husted spoke of the fact that every single Ohioan will receive a tax cut, 3% across the board. And for those individuals who are making $25,000 or less, that's been raised from $22,000, so up from $22,000 to $25,000, those individuals are receiving a 100% income tax reduction. And that is 125,000 additional Ohioans that now have zero income tax burden in the state of Ohio. We eliminated another bracket. We went from 5 brackets to 4. Just a few years ago, Chairman Olslager, we were at 9. Today, we're at 4. And we have lowered the highest marginal rate from 4.79% in Ohio, now down to below 4% at 3.99%. And so while we're making great investments, we also are recognizing that this is the people's money first. And we have been empowered by our constituents to reflect their priorities. And this budget does that. And we do it in substantial ways. So I will conclude, Governor, by saying thank you, and to Lieutenant Governor. I also be remiss, we have David Reedy here and Ray DeRossi and some of our Senate staff. Thank you all for the phenomenal work that you do as well, and our entire team, and Chief of Staff John Barron. But Governor, we have a comprehensive budget. It's been mentioned, it's balanced, it's bipartisan. And, given the fact that we're in a hyper-partisan environment today, and when we see what's happening in Washington, D.C., that is a marvel in and of itself, and it's something that we should be proud of. This is a budget that will serve Ohioans well, and it's one that we all can be proud of. Thank you.
Senator, thank you very much. Next, I'd like to welcome the chairman of the Ohio House Finance Committee, Scott Olslager, who will speak on behalf of the House Majority Caucus.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you. It's an honor for me also to represent my House colleagues. I'm joined today by my Vice Chair, Phil Plummer. We spent many hours around the table together trying to work this out. At its heart, a good state budget is about people. It's about funding the priorities we all share and investing in what works. It's about being fiscally responsible and protecting tax dollars. It's about helping Ohioans keep more of what they earn with personal income tax cuts. It's about investing for tomorrow and laying the foundation for Ohio's future. And all of this and more is what we've accomplished in Ohio's new state budget. This budget is balanced, as was mentioned, and fiscally responsible. It includes the Fair School Funding Plan, whose one of the authors is here today, and more to improve education opportunities for all children. This budget will make Ohio more competitive to keep and create jobs. It will provide quality care for seniors and our most vulnerable citizens. And it supports those who serve all of us, veterans, law enforcement, and first responders. It's no surprise Ohio's new state budget was overwhelmingly supported by both Democrats and Republicans. This is a budget Ohio can truly be proud of. Of course, none of this could be possible without the help of many people. Thank you to Speaker Cupp for his leadership. I mentioned Vice Chair Plummer, other members of the House, Chairman Dolan, and Vice Chairman Gavarone. Special thank you to Governor DeWine for all his work, and my longtime friend, Lieutenant Governor John Husted. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm certainly also grateful to the Cabinet, to our senior team, to the public servants across Ohio who have worked tirelessly over the past year in the fight against COVID, and to the team of the Office of Budget and Management who have been working on the budget for more than a year. So let me now introduce Director Kim Murnix and thank her and her team for their good work.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor. Happy fiscal new year, everyone. As Governor DeWine and Lieutenant Governor Husted, Chairman Olslager, and Senator Hottinger all stated so well, this is a fantastic state budget. As we close the challenge of fiscal years 2020 and 21 and begin the new 22-23 biennium, the state of Ohio's fiscal outlook is strong. Our economy is quickly rebounding to our firm pre-pandemic position, and the results of the decisive actions taken by Governor DeWine to prioritizing saving lives so we could save our economy are apparent. More Ohioans are going back to work, lower unemployment rates compared to the nation, and employers are hiring in every community across the state. Last night, OBM closed fiscal year 21 with tax revenues $1.5 billion above the yearly estimate. That was led by both categories of our sales tax. This strong rebound from 1 year ago is the direct result of Governor's conservative decisions. It is clear that the strategic measures to manage the pandemic head-on, both from a public health and a budget standpoint, have worked. Planning this budget was not easy. The economic indicators were constantly changing, seemingly daily. And as the governor indicated, OBM started working on this budget over a year ago. But one thing has remained certain, and this past year has demonstrated this without a doubt, that our economy is closely linked to the health of our residents. We have stemmed the spread of the pandemic with the vaccine, and consumers have returned to our retail stores and restaurants, sparking growth. The last 2 quarters of calendar year 2020, Ohio's GDP outpaced the nation's growth, and in the first quarter of calendar year 21, our GDP expanded at an annualized rate of 6.4%. That is just a tremendous rebound from where we were just 1 year ago. This budget is also very carefully constructed to allocate one-time resources to one-time expenses that will have lasting benefits for the citizens of Ohio, including all of the initiatives in the Governor's Investing in Ohio plan. And this budget appropriates recurring revenues for ongoing programs. It is a solid and structurally balanced budget. It is focused on the future of this great state and continuing the fiscally conservative practices that have sustained our strong financial position over this past year in the face of the pandemic. It's a budget that every Ohioan can be proud of. It is a budget that is focused on healthy people, on renewing our communities, and on our thriving economy. I'm excited to now turn the page to budget implementation, to getting to work with the awesome OBM team, with the members of the cabinet, my fellow cabinet members and all of their staffs, Governor and Lieutenant Governor. Putting this budget to work starts today. And I look forward to working on this with the people of Ohio. So thank you, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, for your leadership. I am always proud to be part of your team and excited to now get to work putting this budget to work for all of Ohio.
Thanks, Director.
Thank you.
I'd like now to invite the Director of Developmental Service Agency to just say a few words about how this budget will impact economic development in the state of Ohio. Director Lydia Mahalik.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everyone. I just want to say that we really are in a tremendous position right now as a state to make these investments. And we're able to do that because of the steadfast and aggressive leadership that we have from both Governor DeWine and Lieutenant Governor Husted. Your leadership certainly over the past year and beyond has put this state on a path to economic success. And our work at development here is going to be making sure that these investments get out to our communities to create environments that are conducive for private investment and create opportunities for communities to thrive. And we certainly are on the right track to make that happen. Because, as the Lieutenant Governor mentioned, there are mayors and local leaders from across the state that have been telling us for a very long time how much these investments could mean to them in terms of opportunity. Opportunity that they wouldn't have without the strong partnership from this administration. And we are super excited to get to put these dollars to work. Cleaning up these properties creates opportunities for future business, but also for existing businesses within this state to continue to grow and to thrive and to be strong. We have the investment in broadband that's going to create a tremendous future for the state. The new water and sewer program that we have in place, we're going to continue to be very competitive. We're definitely leading in the Midwest, and I would say both Governor and Lieutenant Governor, we're going to continue to be on the growth pattern to lead in this country for this private investment that creates opportunity for our citizens. I want to thank the legislature for your work in this. And Governor, you are correct. The things that matter most are not the things that we get to do individually, but they're the things that we get to do together. And I am anxious and going to move with a sense of urgency because that's what you tell us to do. And we're going to put these dollars to work for the state. Thank you so much.
Director, thank you very much. To both directors, I know the first checks will be going out later today, right?
Absolutely.
And to the local communities. We are in a hurry about these things. Finally, let me talk more about the importance of our investment in broadband is Phelan Donahue, the chair of Innovate Ohio.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm here today in my capacity as the board chair of Innovate Ohio. Under the leadership of Lieutenant Governor Husted and Governor DeWine, Innovate Ohio is advancing innovation and entrepreneurship across our state. As technology proliferates, our ability to be competitive in a global market will be essential to the future health and happiness of our citizens. Innovate Ohio is fortunate to have an incredible board of advisors made up of some of the brightest entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, and technologists in the state. We're grateful to them and their engagement and counsel on important matters regarding technology, talent attraction, and access to capital for Ohio businesses. This is a critical time for our state. Fueled by the pandemic, talent and capital are fleeing from the coasts and searching for a new home to grow and prosper. This budget reflects tax policies that will allow Ohio to attract and retain some of the most innovative companies in the world and create high-paying, future-ready jobs across our region. And perhaps most importantly, this budget also provides critical funding for broadband access. This supports our teachers, our freelancers and creators, and students at any age looking to skill up or find a new career. It also provides our future entrepreneurs and innovators across the state resources that they'll need to grow up and change the world. Leadership matters, and Ohio entrepreneurs are fortunate to have a governor and lieutenant governor who understand the needs of the business community and the importance of a vibrant economy and entrepreneurial ecosystem. So thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for your creativity and leadership at Innovate Ohio, and thank you, Governor DeWine, for your support for innovation and Ohio entrepreneurship.
Thank you very much. We're open for questions.
Governor, we discussed the retail message on the COVID penalties, give back, the rejection of that. Why do that? And secondly, what would be your message to those businesses that did follow the rules, that did follow your restrictions during COVID? What does that say to them?
The vast majority of Ohio businesses did phenomenally well during this pandemic. They did everything in their power to keep their employees safe. They did everything in their power to keep their customers safe. And I just cannot thank them enough for what they've done. Businesses were directly involved in coming up with the protocols for our bars, for our restaurants, for our retail establishments, for manufacturing. And on and on. They played an integral part in this. There were just a few, I mean really a few, outliers who time after time violated the rules, did not take care of, make sure that their customers were safe. These people were cited by our liquor control agents. In some cases, they were cited time after time after time. So it really is not fair, or would not be fair, for the 99+% of retail people who did a phenomenal job, who played by the rules, did everything they could to keep their customers safe, for us to turn around right now and the few who had to be cited by our liquor control agents to say to them, there's no consequences for what you did. That would simply not be right.
Governor,
It would send a horrible, horrible, horrible message.
You also vetoed Senator Teresa Gavarrone's language dealing with Medicaid procurement contracts going forward. Could you give us an idea of what kind of debate was going on in your office and what you were hearing from Northwest Ohio on this?
Well, let me just say the senator does a phenomenal job representing not only her constituents, but the state. And we work with her very, very closely. And we will continue to work very closely with her in the future. When I took office, frankly, before I took office, we had a vision. Our vision was to literally transform Medicaid in the state of Ohio. Our vision was focused on the millions of people who depend on Medicaid for their medical care. Our vision was focusing on prevention, focusing on the individual, so that that individual's medical care would be tailored to that particular individual. I hired a director specifically to carry out that vision. We have bad indicators, and I won't go through them all. But if you look at where Ohio is in regard to health indicators, we've not historically done that well. I felt we had to do everything within our power to change those numbers, to make it a healthier state, so that people could grow and live their version of the American dream. And so we put together a new procurement protocol where we were going to hire companies, and those companies needed to buy in to our vision. And not only did they need to buy into the vision, they needed to have the ability to carry it out. And two very, very essential things. It was important that we award contracts to companies that could demonstrate the ability to meet the medical needs of Ohioans. We went through a process that has taken a while. We now got the results back from that process. We cannot do anything to delay the movement of Ohio forward and the movement to change Medicaid in Ohio. And anything that gets in the way of that is not good. The process that was set up was a process that focused on quality, focused on an understanding of our mission, and focused on the ability of the company to carry out that mission. I set the broad goals, and then I stood back. And the process went through, and it was an objective process. And the results came in from the objective process. And we had winners, and we had losers. The process worked. It was an objective process. It was a process that was done the right way, from not only a legal point of view, but done the right way from the point of view of trying to get the help and care that we need for Ohioans and a focus on prevention. The item in the budget that I vetoed would limit the Department of Medicaid's ability to fulfill that commitment, our commitment to all Ohioans. It would limit the Department of Medicaid and this administration's ability and our commitment to children, to their parents, to physicians, to counselors, to nurses, and all of our health care professionals to provide a system of accessible, quality health care. The language that we vetoed, the language that I vetoed, would require Medicaid to award contracts to certain companies without requiring that they demonstrate the ability to meet the medical needs of Ohioans. The reforms started under the DeWine Houston administration are poised to save the state of Ohio hundreds of millions of taxpayers' dollars. They are poised to increase transparency and accountability. They're poised to better connect Ohioans with needed care and provide additional support for children. And I want to note this. It's very important. We will provide additional support under this plan, under this new bidding, to children with complex behavioral health needs, as well as adults with chronic conditions. The item that we vetoed put at risk the overall, put at risk the overhaul of a carefully designed plan to improve the lives of the most vulnerable Ohioans. That is why we took this action. Yes, it was not an easy decision. And it was probably one of the more difficult decisions that I've made as governor of the state of Ohio. But the people elect me to make tough decisions. The people elect me, even when there's people who are unhappy about it, to make the decisions that are in the best interest of the people of the state of Ohio. I cannot tell you how disappointed I was when the results came back and a very significant company in Northwest Ohio was not on the list of winners. I understand what this company means to Toledo. I understand what it means to Northwest Ohio. But for me to allow this language to be passed would be to say that the careful procedure that we had put together could be upended by this language. And as painful as it was to make this decision, it was a decision that I felt I had to make, and it was a decision to protect lives, a decision to protect our children, a decision to protect everyone who is on Medicaid in the state of Ohio.
Governor, there's a number of things that you did not veto, voting rights.
Yes,
groups.
thank you for pointing that out.
Among those, you talked about people that would be unhappy. Voting rights groups called for you to stop now the ban on public-private partnerships when it comes to voter registration and education collaboration. Why did you not veto that? Just more into that decision right there.
Look, there's a lot of things that we did not veto. The standard, and I'm talking in general now, I think there should be, by the executive, there should be a deference to the legislature, and to use the veto, exercise my veto power should be done carefully. And if it's a close call, I should defer to the state legislature. And throughout, and I'm not talking about this one, but I'm talking in general now. And that's what I did. If you look at the number of vetoes that were issued, I think historically they're fairly low. They were certainly lower than they were 2 years ago. So, you look, we can dwell on the 1% or the half of 1% or whatever it is that we might disagree on, but the vast majority of things we agree with this legislature. We have a common mission. It's a bipartisan bill. We're very, very happy with it.
One thing you did veto was on the redistricting lawsuits. What was the conversation you had with Attorney General Yost about that?
Yeah, I had a conversation with the Attorney General. He put in writing his concerns, and you know, on that case, I agreed with the Attorney General.
Governor, the amendment that would have allowed healthcare providers to refuse care to people on moral grounds that was opposed by healthcare groups and doctors groups. Why did you choose to allow that to remain in the budget?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think we have to respect people's rights and people's ability to make those decisions. Let me also say that in the real world, most of those rights, and most of the time, those rights are not only being recognized and exercised by medical professionals, but they are being accepted by other medical professionals. That is the way the world generally works. This basically put in statute and codified what is happening anyway.
Your observation of we haven't heard you talk much about the school funding plan up to this point because your focus has been elsewhere. Just generally your observation of that plan and your hopes for the future. This is a start for that. This is not the end of it. This is really just the beginning of many, many changes. Could you talk about that, your point of view?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. We're happy with the way this came out. We're happy with the new plan. I congratulate those who have worked so very, very hard on it for so long. We also have in the budget additional opportunities for families who want to exercise their choice, and I think that is good. So this budget accomplishes two things at once, which are frankly sometimes very difficult to do. So I congratulate the legislature in getting that done. The one thing that I was, adamant about, felt very strongly about, the legislature has supported in the past budget. They supported in this budget. They did it a little different way, and where they put the money. But the end result is that we have a significant amount of money that's going to schools for wellness dollars. They can only be spent for wellness dollars, and there's more accountability in this budget. So I think it's an improvement. I'm very happy with it.
On child care, Governor, what thoughts do you have on the compromise that was in the conference report on step up to quality?
Yeah, look, I think that, let me just talk about big picture goals in regard to child care. We want good quality child care for every child in the state of Ohio, no matter what the parent's income. That's the goal. And we need to keep our eye on the ball. I think that the language that was finally approved by the legislature does that. It keeps our eye on the ball. I think improving the quality of child care in every facility in the state of Ohio, and whether that child comes from a middle-class family or lower middle class or a poor family, that's a common goal, I think, that we all share. I think what we need to continue to do, and again, I don't know anybody disagrees with this either, I think what we need to continue to do is to focus on quality and be willing to constantly evaluate what measurements do in fact truly measure quality. I think that's something that we can all agree on. We're in a process of working our way through this and constantly trying to re-examine, are the things that we are measuring, do they measure what that child is receiving? So I think those are the big goals, and I think that this budget is consistent with that. But like many things, This is a work in progress.
Governor, just to go back to that voting rights, the voting rights people said that this was more about, in their opinion, voter suppression than it was to improving the system.
You know, first of all, that is just absurd. That is ridiculous. Look, Ohio, I get calls all the time. People on the right, people on the left. You know, what goes on in Ohio is we have a good system. We have a good system in Ohio. We have Democrats and Republicans who are watching each other from the precinct level up to the county level. It's a system that has worked for a long, long time. We have expansive voting in the state of Ohio. You can vote for the month previous to the election. You can have ample opportunities to go to the Board of Elections and vote. You have ample opportunities to cast your absentee ballot. You know, many, many years ago when I voted for the first time, if you wanted an absentee ballot, you had to say, oh, there's a reason. You had to have some reason. You're going to be out of town. You're sick. You're in the hospital or something. Not true today. You want an absentee ballot? They'll get you an absentee ballot. So while we may have some disagreements among maybe even the people up here about exactly how this works, we have a pretty darn good system in the state of Ohio. And, you know, we're going to continue that good system. We know how to run elections in Ohio. We've had good secretaries of state. And, you know, well, you know, I said we've had good secretaries of state. And I'm not just talking about one. But we've got a long history of running elections in this state, and so we do a good job. Who else?
Can I add something to that, Governor?
Former Secretary of State, yes. Like this.
Every single piece of data is publicly available. They have access to it. If they want to run their own get out the vote efforts, they have access to the data. Ohio is a very transparent state when it comes to this. It has nothing to do with voter suppression. That's an absurd thing to say, that this would create any voter suppression in the state of Ohio. We're tired of those false claims.
Governor, back to Andrew's question about the medical conscience claim. I'm sorry, I can't see you over there. But the medical conscience thing that's in the budget, back to that. You've been a public advocate for public health all this time. And a lot of health people are saying that could open up the floodgates for people being discriminated against medically, and for people who are looking at Ohio as a potential place to come, if they think they might be discriminated against with medical care, is that an issue?
People are not going to be discriminated against in regard to medical care. We have a vibrant medical care system in the state of Ohio. We have great doctors, we have great nurses, we have great systems. And I had the chance, as no governor ever has, to watch that for the last 15 months. I saw it up close. I saw it up close and personal. I saw doctors. I talked with nurses. I saw our great hospitals and was on phone calls with our hospitals all the time, with our local health departments. We have a good system in the state of Ohio. I will go back to what I said a moment ago, that this simply puts in statute what the practice has been anyway. And the practice has been, if there is something that you know, let's say the doctor is against abortions, the doctor is not doing abortions. If there's other things that maybe a doctor has a conscience problem with, it gets worked out. Somebody else does those things. So, you know, this is not a problem, has not been a problem in the state of Ohio, and I do not expect it to be a problem.
We have time for one more question.
Governor. There was protesters out the State House earlier this week hoping that you would veto the line item that would put more restrictions on abortion clinics and providers. What was your reason for keeping this in the budget?
Look, I agree with what was in the budget. Yeah, we love the First Amendment. I've probably seen more protesters this year than any governor ever has. I'm sure I will see more in the coming days. And, you know, I grew up in Yellow Springs, Ohio, where we had protesters every week, literally. And it's great. We love protesters, so it's all good. Thank you all very much. We have a strong budget. The budget's investing in ourselves, in our future, and in our infrastructure. Again, I want to thank the General Assembly for this great work. Thanks, everybody.